What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Coach to Coach podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Turner. I'm joined with my co host, Joe Brooks. And today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to do our first Q&A. So we've got a couple questions that were sent over on Instagram. So I think we'll start making this Q&A thing a regular thing. And so if you want to have any of your questions answered, make sure you're following us on Instagram and watching out for our stories, and we'll be posting up a question box once a week. So we will get right into it. Let me pull up questions here. All right, so first one we got is 5 grams of creatine, still the gold standard. Everyone seems to have a different opinion. This is from my client, Alex.
Yeah, I think as like a baseline, 5 grams for like training purposes, solid. I've seen some studies talking about higher muscle mass individuals benefiting from like 10, 15-ish grams. Um, I personally just use five, like it just gets the job done.
Yeah.
That's what's giving me the benefits. Um, but yeah, what do you think?
So I guess like I had a client ask me recently, he was like, I've been seeing, and this is a different client. So obviously Alex is seeing this stuff, it's circulating on social media. You get these nice, posts where they're like the benefits of, 10 grams of creatine or 20 grams of creatine or whatever. And, it's because there's some new research that's come out showing that higher doses of creatine can be beneficial to prevent like cognitive decline, essentially, right? And so I think that the way to frame this is like if your main shtick is like you just want to get the performance, like the gym performance benefits out of creatine, like 5 grams is probably straight. I don't know that you're going to see much more out of doing, 10, 15, 20 grams. I've had stints of higher creatine intake above 10 grams, and I didn't really notice a whole lot different. Um, so, that's kind of how I would frame it. If you have maybe uh, some sort of cognitive decline, dementia that runs in your family, maybe it could be an insurance policy, something that you're just like, you know what? I know I'm not going to get like maybe major performance benefits beyond the 5 grams. And maybe the research shows that there is, but for me, like I just didn't really notice much. You could look at it like that. Like I'm just going to do this as an insurance policy to make sure that my brain stays in a good spot. Because really, creatine's not expensive. It's not expensive. It's readily available. It's well tolerated. It's highly researched. It's safe. So like almost why not? I think the biggest consideration, not necessarily the biggest, but something to consider with higher dosages is that, if you take, 20 grams of creatine all at one time, it can pull water into your gut and you can, essentially have diarrhea. So you might want to split your dose up, into 2 or 3 smaller doses throughout the day, so that you can kind of avoid some of that from happening.
Yeah, creatine's one of those things that just seems like there's studies coming out daily, just showing that it improves a bunch of different things. So, yeah, you can kind of tailor your dosage off of what you're really wanting to see. If you want to prioritize the cognitive benefits, cool, go ahead and try higher dosages. But if you really only care about the performance stuff, 5 grams would get the job done. So,
We were talking off air. You were saying that you saw something on TikTok too, right? What were you saying?
yeah, yeah, it was about I can't remember the name of the podcast or who the lady was, but she was talking about a study being done that shows if you're sleep deprived, taking it was between like I thought she said like 22 to 25 grams of creatine will just like null the downfalls of sleep deprivation. Um, and I think if that's you, don't sacrifice sleep and just think you can take creatine and just you're gonna be fine. Like definitely still get your sleep, but I also didn't look into the study very much, so I don't know the details of what was said and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I heard the same as well. And my viewpoint on that is like if you're consistently getting, poor sleep, like you're sleeping less than 6 hours a night, like creatine, it might help you, but like you need to fix the root of the issue. You know what I mean? But if you have something that happened out of your control, you know what I mean, where that forced you to stay up, then maybe that could be a useful targeted approach for, some higher dose creatine for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
All right, next one I got is from Moroccan Rambo. Pre-workout meals to have quick 30 minutes before the gym. So I'll jump into that first. I generally am not going to be eating 30 minutes before the gym. I'm going to want to set more time aside for my pre-workout meal. I don't want to have a bunch of food in my stomach when I'm training. I want my stomach to feel largely empty. I don't want to be mixing sympathetic and parasympathetic signals, right? Rest and digest, fight or flight, eating, training. Those are different nervous system states, right? So I want to have some time for my body to move through the food before I actually get into the gym. But if I were in a situation where that was my only option, is to have a meal 30 minutes before I train, it would almost certainly be a very low fat meal. And it would probably be something along the lines of a whey isolate and perhaps cream of rice, or even just doing like essential amino acids and branched cyclic dextrin, like a carb source, right? Something like that can get in and out like really quickly. It's very light on your stomach, but you're still providing your body with some fast digesting carbohydrates and amino acids for the training session.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was on a bit of a time crunch today. I had to like hurry up and get to the gym, and that was my pre workout was Elevate cream of rice and just some whey protein, and that's what did it for me. Another thing that could be decent too was just like oats and protein as well, or fruit and protein, something like that. Granted, it depends on what your carb, like how much carbs you're wanting, like
Yeah.
before your workout. If it's like not a huge amount, some fruit and stuff, but if you're needing 50 grams of carbs and getting it from straight fruit, you know, you're going to be
Yeah.
eating a ton of fruit, and then you're probably
Yeah.
not going to feel good in the gym. So
Yeah. I think that because I have done one of my like fail safe meals, right? Like shit hits the fan. I just need to get food in. It's oats and whey, like blend it up. Like not, I don't even cook the oats, right? Because I don't want to volumize them. I actually
right,
just want to blend them up and be able to drink them. So something like that could make some sense. But I think once you get up maybe over like 35, 40 grams of carbs from oats, it's going to be pretty, it's pretty fibrous. It's pretty high volume. So that something like that might sit in your stomach a little bit longer. But if you're talking about just quick to get it in, yeah, blend up some oats, blend up some, some whey with that, maybe some honey, some fruit, you know, easy piece of cake for sure.
you
Yeah.
do you have any thoughts on people using like cereal bars or Rice Krispie treats or like candy or anything pre workout? Granted, it like lines up with the carbs.
Um, I think if there was a place for it, it would probably be like, pre or post workout where, you have activity that's going to be acutely improving your insulin sensitivity, right? So you can really kind of take advantage of that stuff. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Not per se. Rice Krispies, I've programmed them in clients' plans. I think it can slot in for sure, but that's one of those things that can be a slippery slope because it's like you intend on eating Rice Krispie treats just pre-workout, and but you got a big ass box at the crib, and they're just eyeballing you. You're just looking at
Right,
it
right, right.
the entire day. So yeah, I think if you're the right person and you can, just treat that as like, hey, this is one of my pre-workout things, and that you tie it to the pre-workout, then yeah. But in most instances, I would just prefer like real food.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. You got one?
Yeah, goals for 2026. I can. say for me personally, it's just to grow my business, like help more people. And we were talking about this off stream like last week, but my content, like I know for sure this year going forward, like it just has to like evolve. I have to work on making it like just packaging it better for people to digest. Getting people to like want to see the content and to like take something from it, but also say it and make it look nice. I think that like that matters to people. Sometimes it's not the information that you can give people. Sometimes it's the way that you package it. Um, and we were talking like last week, like I'm still posting and like making content from the person that was like fearful of judgment in like posting and talking and like getting in front of the camera. Um, and like it's been a year, so like I'm past that. So the content needs to change, like it needs to evolve, it needs to be like higher quality, and so that's just a primary focus for me at least this year. And then of course just like getting bigger, getting stronger, like getting in a even better shape, like that type
Yeah.
of stuff. Just improving myself so I can help other people improve.
Yeah. On the note of content, because I think this is something that might resonate with, people in a similar situation where maybe they want to put themselves out there to grow a business or maybe just be more active on social media, but they are scared to post, scared of judgment. Like it's a real thing, right? Like you're putting yourself out there to the world. I think, the way that I kind of frame it is like it's not real. Like this is
Right.
it's not the real world. Like, I have created some cool relationships online, but I don't see these people in the real world. You know what I mean? So I'm just gonna make the stuff that I want to make. I'm gonna put it out there. If people like it, they like it. Great. If not, like it's not. It's almost like it's not real to me. You know what I mean? So I think with you, like your first hurdle was just simply like, okay, just peel the band-aid off and just start posting content, right? And you did that. And now you're at a point where it's like, okay, this content, like I'm posting regularly. I've gotten over that hurdle. And now in order for you and myself too to grow the business, it's like it needs to be a little bit more targeted, right? How it's being presented, because people have short attention spans where I like being long winded. I like explaining things in detail, and that's not exactly what's going to grab people's attention. So, understanding that and essentially playing the game is sort of what you have to do. And the tricky thing about playing the game is like you you have to walk the line between staying true to who you are and playing the game, right?
100%.
And that's a hard thing for me to kind of navigate because I don't want to feel like a sellout and just like hopping on these stupid ass trends, even though I know that will get me more exposure. Because at the end of the day, like I I I want to create this content to help people. I want to create this content to grow my business, and ultimately, like I can't help anybody or work with anybody that doesn't know who I am. So the best way to get people to know who I am is to get better at making the content and playing the game.
Yeah, and with playing the game thing, like that's like we might see, or anyone who's like really pays attention to like the fitness industry or anything like that, like it seems like these there will be people that seem like gimmicky, and we'll make jokes about them or like the things that they're saying, or but like that's what that is. That's the playing the game part, because sometimes it takes being that to get people in the door, and then okay, I can actually show you like
It does,
how,
yeah.
what's real.
Yeah, yeah. It's a hard space to navigate, and I don't want to just go full send on the bullshit, but maybe sprinkle a little bit of it in there just to get more eyes on, and then just to get their attention, and then like, oh, now here's the real shit. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
this is what I'm really trying to give you after you kind of make that initial handshake.
yeah,
Yeah.
100. I agree 100%.
Next one I got. Okay, so the fucking kids, man. all these terms. You might know a little bit more about this than I do. I think I understand what he's saying, but thoughts on physique inflation over the past 10 or so years?
Physique inflation. I don't like in what context. Like,
That's the question. I don't. What the way that I'm thinking about this is like that people are more and more losing touch with what a realistic physique is because of social media, right? Like, cause
yeah, okay, yeah, yeah.
you
So
see what
so
I'm
like,
saying? Like, cause you see
yeah,
all these crazy physiques, and the nature of social media is that kind of like the cream is going to rise to the top, like the craziest, most well-developed physiques. And there's so many people on social media that it can seem like that's everybody. Like everybody just has these fucking crazy physiques, but really it's just like 0.0000001% of the population. But that's
right.
just it's just all you're seeing in your feed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can say from personal experience, I guess it's just opened me up to comparing myself to people that like you just said, like you look at them like they look insane. Like I want to be that. If I do similar things to them, then I'll look like that. That's like it's just not the case. Like you can still build a great physique. You can look like a great you, but you don't have the genetics. You don't have the insertions. You don't have the muscle building capabilities or whatever that this other person has that has millions of followers or has this huge audience. But that doesn't mean that you still can't look great, have people admire you in the way that you look. And um yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of a double-edged sword too, because anyone can like get in the gym now and start like recording and showing kind of their journey and their process. So like as I feel like you're gonna see more of that now, people that kind of look um I don't know how to say it. Like, I guess people that are in different stages of their journey,
Mhm.
um, making content about this, and so I think you're gonna see more people that have like more achievable results compared to the 1%. Like, you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, yeah. I think there's also like I'm starting to see if he's talking about physique inflation, I'm seeing some physique depreciation. I'm
Right,
seeing
right,
some
right,
physique depreciation because I every so often I see like it'll be like a guy or a gal that's like, this is what 10 years in the gym really looks like. 10 years in the gym lifting, 5 days per week really looks like. And it's a physique that's like, doesn't even look like they lift.
right. Yeah,
And,
I saw that
and if you
video.
look at the comments, it's like, oh man, there's a lot of people that are like saying, yeah, like that's what I look like. And, that are resonating with that. And I think that's also just a crazy cope because,
Yeah,
dude, if you spend 10 years in the gym and you've been consistent with it and you haven't been eating like a dickhead the entire time, you should look like you lift. At least with your shirt off. Like the
right,
average person should be able to look at you and be like, yeah, that motherfucker lifts. You shouldn't you shouldn't as a male like have this crazy hourglass shape and just be completely out of shape. No, you should look like you have some muscle on your body. So I think that is something that's really interesting too. But I honestly think it all just kind of depends on what corner of the internet you're on, to be honest with you, because that's how this algorithm works. It's going to feed you the shit that you resonate with. So what I see on my feed is not what the next person sees on their feed, and it's gonna feed you what you want to be fed.
yeah. Do you think people using the term sleeper build to describe themselves is also a cope?
No, if they actually have a sleeper build,
So what's a
because
sleeper build to you? Because it'll be small individuals like you look small, and I think like they'll just use that. But yeah, I think there's for sure like actual like sleeper builds like yeah, we all know that, I think. But then like the term just gets used by like anyone who just you don't have any size yet, like you're still just
dude,
small.
so the sleeper build, in my opinion, is if I see somebody with clothes on and they're just unassuming. right?
Yeah.
And they take their clothes off and they have some muscle on their body and they're lean. It's like, oh shit, I had no idea.
Yeah,
No
for sure.
idea that that was under there. That to me is a sleeper build. You know what I mean? Um, but if you're just saying sleeper build and you kind of like don't have any of that, then it's not a sleeper build. It's just a fucking build in progress still. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
That's right.
yeah, yeah. The terminology is it's funny. Okay. How do I target lagging muscle groups and muscle imbalances?
I mean, give it more attention. I think if you're, well, I think one, if you're already doing the movement, so say your arms are lagging and you have a full arm day, but then you like record the sets or like you have a coach and they want you to record certain things and you're doing things incorrectly or sloppy form or whatever it is, and like doing more of that I don't think is the answer, um because you're just doing more of the wrong stuff that's keeping you held back from having bigger arms. But I think like for the most part, like if something is small or it's just not growing or whatever it is, I think like adding a set or two, you can move certain movements around at the end of other workouts. So like if you have a leg day and your arms are lagging, you can throw a couple sets of arms or whatever at the end just to kind of give it a little bit more attention. But I mean, I suppose like it kind of just depends on genetics too. Like, if you just have bad insertions and something's always just going to look a certain way, like there's not much that you can do about that.
I think that there is always going to be some sort of quantifiable measure as to why you have a lagging body part. So, like, if, like, a lot of people just have no idea where their volume is at, they just have no idea. They don't ever, like, count how many sets they're doing for a body part. So simply what you water will grow, right? There's layers to this, but what you water will grow, and that's kind of your start point, okay? If you're not fucking watering the body part, giving it adequate volume, it might not grow, okay? So I can't grow my calves. Well, how many sets a week are you doing on calves? How many hard, good quality sets a week are you doing on calves, right? Well, I tack on 3 sets at the end of my leg day, right? Well, there's no wonder your calves aren't growing. Okay, so first and foremost there. Now, if you go through that and you say, okay, I'm getting adequate volume, maybe you're doing somewhere between 8 and 20 sets for this lagging body part, and it's still not fucking growing. Then you need to look at, okay, well, the solution is probably not 30 sets, right? It's probably not 50 sets. Like that's crazy, right? The solution is probably in looking at where is the execution at? How are you doing these things? How are you performing the movements on this body part, right? And I can give you like arms for an example for me. Like my arms aren't great, but they're not shit, but I want them to be bigger. And it's something like I have been able to basically if I water a body part outside of my arms, I can see them grow, right? And arms just haven't been that. And so I finally got to the point where I I've tried everything like full ROM, nice and slow eccentrics, like intensity tech, like all sorts of stuff, right? And I finally just arrived at the point where it's like I'm just not gonna do a movement that I can't feel, and this is kind of not quantifiable, but it is, right? Like I'm willing to bet, like for me, chest, it's a good body part. I can feel my chest contract, high quality. I can almost envision all of the fibers contracting and lengthening, and I can immediately get a good pump in my chest. So there's no surprise to me that my chest is a good body part. You know what I mean? And when I relate that or compare that to my bicep training, I don't have that on a lot of movements, right? I just don't. I can do a single arm preacher curl, and it's like I don't even feel anything happening. Like I don't feel a squeeze. I don't feel anything, and on, on a dumbbell press or on a pec fly, it's like I can cramp this thing. I can cramp my pec. And
Right.
so just saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to just simply do for my arms only movements in which I can get that cramp like feeling, where I can get that high tension, right? Even if that means it's just down to a couple exercises, right? Because more is not necessarily better. Hitting it from every single angle, like that might not necessarily be better if you're not getting a good response from it, if you're not getting that feeling from it. And so
Right.
that is something that I have, been doing of lately, and my arms are measuring at present bigger than they ever have. And it's just by simplifying things and just sticking with movements that I can feel. I know that sounds kind of broy, but I can feel them, and I'm just going to stick with those, and I'm going to run them into the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. Doing things like computer chair curls and computer
Yeah,
chair workouts.
yeah. If you know, you know. Um, so this question is from Joseph Percher. Joseph Percher has a fantastic podcast on YouTube. It's called the One More Rep Podcast, and I highly encourage anybody that is into real deal bodybuilding, no BS bodybuilding, to give his channel a sub and check his stuff out, because he's putting out some really good stuff. He asks, are there any aspects of training that you've changed your mind on?
I'll let you kind of give your takes.
Um, yeah, I mean, a lot, you know, and I don't know if it's so much as changed my mind on as it has been evolved, because I got into lifting not for bodybuilding. I got into lifting just for lifting. And my whole mindset and thought process and what worked for me for a really long time was just simply getting fucking stronger. Getting stronger worked for me until it didn't, essentially. You know what I mean? And so now I'm at a place where I'm older, I've accumulated some mileage, and I can't train a lot of movements the way that I used to. So having to look at how do I get the most out of the least? And that's also a big hit to my ego, because like I want to lift big weights like I used to, but I also am at the point in understanding that that is not going to allow me to continue training at a high level. Like I can have a training block where I just blast and just, and just push the weight and just progress. And at the end of it, my joints are going to be wrecked. You know what I mean? So I think that is the biggest aspect of training that has changed for me, is truly committing to the idea of getting more out of less, and trying to make, 3 plates per side on a leg press feel like 6 plates per side. How do I make that happen? Right? I think that's probably the biggest one for me. Yeah. What do you got?
I'll say for me, I mean, specific, like with specific lifts, like deadlifts. I used to never want to deadlift. I didn't like deadlifting. But I was also just bad at it, and was doing them wrong, wasn't progressing them correctly. Like it was just kind of all over the place. So I was like, oh, I just don't like deadlifting because I sucked at it. But um, doing them more and actually progressing it, like working on form and technique and stuff like that, like I love them now. I think it's probably one of my like most favorite lifts right now. Um, but that's because I got better. I gave it the time and effort that it needed. But I think like before I started working with you too, we talked about this like in a past episode. It was more like I was so worried about picking like the right movements and what's the perfect rep scheme and what's um like it's just science based and I was leaving reps and like effort on the table, and so I was just so focused and wrapped up in like having the perfect everything that it was holding me back. I wasn't growing because of whatever micro factors I could come up with at the point at the time. But um we started doing things like 4 sets of 20 on leg press, um nonstop, and just kind of all out effort on some stuff, and like that's something that I would never do before. So when it comes to like, I guess like intensity and stuff like that, like it's completely different. My workout intensity now um is just not what it was before, and without being exposed to that, like I would still be operating probably in that same like super sciencey, super specific like way of like training, and leaving a lot on the table, where now it's like kind of doesn't matter the it kind of doesn't matter the movement. It's just like whatever it is, like just execute it as best as you can, give it as much intensity as you can. Sometimes it
Yeah.
doesn't always make sense, but I think you're going to get a lot more out of that than leaving a lot of stuff on the table, like how I was training before. So
I'm going to wrap something I said into what you said because I think that this would be a good point to touch on. So I'm saying like get more out of less, right? And I want to be clear in saying I'm not saying do less. I'm saying
right,
get more out of less. And on what you're saying, right, where it doesn't matter if you have this movement that has a perfect, strength or loading profile, and it lines up perfectly, and it hits the fibers just right, and everything's perfect. None of that shit matters if you aren't training hard.
right.
None of that shit matters if you aren't training hard. And so what some of those kind of really pretty, really specific movements can fool you into thinking is that you are training hard. And what I mean by that is like, just go back to the basics and see what I'm talking about. Go back to deadlifting, right? Go back to dumbbell rowing. To compare a dumbbell row to a single arm, cable row, right? Go
Yeah,
back to Penlay rows. Go back to these big heavy hitter movements that hit a lot of like global tissue that are multi-joint movements and kind of compare that. You know what I mean? And if you are at a place in your physique where you need to grow your whole fucking body, you know what I mean? Where you're not trying to just put like little bits and pieces here and there, those are probably the movements. Fuck the stimulus to fatigue ratio. Throw that
right,
out the
right,
window.
right.
Those are the movements that you should probably be focusing on until you've got to a point where you have some clay to mold, right? And
Right.
so, yeah, that's because I think like with and I think a lot of it is getting back to content. Like we go through these periods in time where things and concepts are popular and everybody's talking about them. And so it seems like this is what it is. Like this is what we need to be doing. But like don't lose sight of the fact that people were getting jacked with barbells and dumbbells and very, very simple movements for a very long time.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
when in doubt, if it's not working, go back to the basics, man. Go back to the fucking basics.
I think in some way, like the science basy, like more studies and stuff coming out on this stuff is almost like it's almost hindering people more, I think, than it is benefiting them, because I get so many like science based or study proven whatever people like working out, and they're talking about fatigue like it's something to be like scared of. Like if you're working out hard, you're gonna be fatigued.
Yeah.
Um, and like trying to like run from it while doing these like weird niche movements. They've got straps hooked up to their elbows, and they've got, I don't know, all these different things. Like I don't know. I just feel like the at some point the science study based stuff is like it's just holding people back more than it's progressing things.
I think that truly knowing what feeling fatigued and overtrained is more valuable than trying to not be that, right?
Right. Right.
RPE, rate of the or sorry, reps in reserve. How the fuck can you know what 0 reps in reserve is if you haven't consistently trained to failure? Like you need to actually know where
Right.
failure is at. in order to know what, 2 reps in reserve or 3 reps in reserve is. You have to have that anchor point, right? And so how can you really know, like, I'm accumulating fatigue if you haven't fucking buried yourself? Like,
Right.
fuck around and find out for a little while, and then you can know what it is, and then you can know how to brush up against it and, pull back a little bit from that point and just stay in that sweet spot, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Um, let's see. Um, when is macro and meal timing most important, and when is it okay to be a little more lax?
So
And that's from I want to give him a shout out. That's from my client Colton.
yeah, I actually this is a good question. Because I found I've kind of changed strategies a little bit with my clients. Some of them, well, most of them are like they've been in the gym a little bit, but they haven't. They've never really tracked anything. They've never like been on a meal plan. They've never like they don't know what macros are. So a lot of them are just like general health, like just want to get in better shape. Um, Clients, and I find that like for me at least, when I start them off now, I'm starting them on like a calorie based plan. It's just super simple. It's super easy. Just stay in this range. Um, cool. And then once they kind of get better at that, then I can start getting a little bit more specific. Okay, cool. These are the how to read nutrition labels. Make your meals, 50 grams of protein, 60 carbs,
Progressive
whatever
overload.
fat. Yeah, yeah. So
Progressive.
like
Yeah.
slowly just getting more and more detailed with that. Um, and then getting into like a meal plan where like they have the weights of every food they have to weigh out, and it's just slowly getting more and more specific. Um, but that's going to be different for everyone because everyone kind of has been at different levels. The experience that they have in the gym with meal planning and stuff like that, like everyone's kind of different. So different strokes for different folks, I guess.
I think that's what it is. It's who's asking the question. Who are we talking about? First of all, right? Um, if I am working with somebody that is in a competition prep scenario, whether they are a power lifter or a bodybuilder, I want you eating your meals on a schedule. I want you, and I think it matters, right? Because we want to get your body into a rhythm. We want to get your body expecting things, right? And getting you into a nice, consistent pattern and also the routine because we need consistency, right? We don't have weeks to fucking just see what happens. Like we need to get this rolling. We need to know what's what. We need to remove variation, right? We need to have highly repeatable weeks, and you do that through consistency. And so for those people, it matters 100%. If you're just talking about the average lifestyle person, right? It might not matter a whole lot. I think that the thing that matters the most for the average person that's just looking to put on some muscle or get in better shape is what is your total food intake for the day, right? So, and this is something that I've walked back on because I used to be very detail oriented because I am a bodybuilder, because I am a power lifter. So that trickled down into my clients. But I've started to walk back on some of that with particular clients that are not that, right? And so just peeling back the layers and saying like what matters the most, right? What is going to be the number one thing that matters in seeing you through to your goal? And in that situation for those people, it's really going to be two things. It's going to be make sure you hit your protein goal for the day and make sure that you hit your calorie goal. If you do those two things, we can control your body however we want. And I actually tested this on myself. I spent a long period of time from November of 2024 through whenever we started working together, just
Like
doing
September, right?
exactly, yeah, doing exactly that. I wasn't on a set diet, though I largely would eat the very similar things day to day, but I was not on a set diet. The only thing that I gave a fuck about was what's my protein? Am I hitting my protein minimum for the day? And it was just a minimum, right? There was no max. It was just a minimum. And nailing my calorie intake. How much protein above the minimum and how many carbs and fats slotted into that calorie goal, it varied day to day. And I was able to do with my body exactly what I wanted to do with my body. So I think that if you are, in that situation where you're just looking to get in shape, I think that is a viable approach. I'm still going to give my clients macros per meal, right? I'm still going to break things down for them, but I'm going to say, hey, when you need to, just understand, just make sure you're hitting the protein, make sure you're hitting the calories. And if you do that, we're still going to be all right. You know what I mean?
Right.
But anybody that's in a competitive scenario, leave no fucking stone unturned. Leave no stone unturned, because you don't want to have that in the back of your head, right? Even though I'm telling you, like, it works, right? But you're giving up something, and that something could be 1%. You don't want to give up 1%. You want to be 100%. And so in that context, leave no stone unturned.
Right.
All right, let's close it out. We got more questions, but I want to keep this a little bit shorter. So we got more questions. We'll roll this into the next one, roll the extra questions into the next one. The last one I got, and I'm going to frame this in the context of growing a back. Fuck, kill, marry. Deadlifts, T-bar rows, or a cable row?
Cable row probably got to be kill. Mary probably deadlifts.
Okay.
And T-bar row, yeah, T-bar probably, yeah.
I would say that I would kill off cable rows, and I'm just looking like what's got the most runway, the biggest, what's got the most specificity, and what has the most runway, right? So cable rows, and I guess there's runway on cable rows, but I would kill cable rows. I would fuck deadlifts, meaning like they would be like an occasional fling thing. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to be my main. Put it that way. You know what I mean? And T-bar rows, like a chest supported T-bar row, that would be my Mary. That would be my main piece, because I'm just thinking like T-bar row, you can load it up heavy. It's not going to hit your lower back, so you can hit it with some frequency. You can hit it, twice a week. If you could probably hit chest support T-bar row 3 times a week if you varied the rep ranges. That's something that you could spam. You know what I mean? And deadlifts, depending on how fucking strong you are, you might only be able to do that once a week. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
that's kind of my.
I guess,
my
I guess in my head, everyone that has a big deadlift, has a strong deadlift, has a big back, has a giant back. So
Sure, yeah,
that's
I'm
just
a
what it
firm
is for
believer
me.
in that. Yeah,
And that was like you explaining to me why deadlifts are important too. Like same with like having a big bench. Like everyone that has a big chest has a big bench, or vice
sure.
versa.
Yeah, I think that's a good spot to end it off on. So anybody that gave us questions, we'll just roll this into the next one. I want to keep it about 30 minutes, so we're a little bit over that. So, got anything else to add?
I think the last time we recorded was before Christmas, so hope everyone had a good Christmas, had a good New Year's.
Yep.
Make 2026 your best year yet. That's pretty much it.
Yep. Excellent. Happy New Year's, guys. All right, we'll see you.